The silver dessert spoons were aligned to the millimeter, and the scent of charred rosemary still hung in the air of the perfect Naperville dining room. Marissa smiled at her guests, the picture of suburban success, until her hand brushed against something cold and jagged wedged deep into the velvet sofa cushion. It was a cheap, plastic burner phone, black, scratched, and vibrating with a rhythmic hum that felt like a heartbeat. When she pressed the button, the low-resolution screen flickered to life, revealing 5 words that turned the warm room ice cold. "We are waiting for you at home, Papa." Across the room, her husband David was laughing, his fingers tracing the rim of a crystal wine glass with practiced ease. But as Marissa watched him, she noticed the thin sheen of sweat on his forehead and the way his knuckles whitened as he gripped his navy blazer, hiding it from view. The house, with its panoramic windows and vaulted ceilings, suddenly felt like a stage set with the lights dimming. She looked at the phone, then at the man she had slept beside for 15 years, realizing that the front door was locked from the inside. And she was trapped in a masterpiece of a lie. The ice clinks against the crystal as Marissa refills her glass, the condensation beating down the sides like slow tears. Across the table, David's fingers tap an uneven rhythm against his thigh. Thump, 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 the only sign he's listening to Mr. Hargrove's story about the new highway bypass. His smile stays fixed, but his knee bounces under the tablecloth, a metronome counting down the seconds until they can leave. To any observer peering through the expansive bay windows of their Naperville home, the scene is a portrait of suburban perfection. The aroma of charred rosemary and prime rib lingers in the air, a scent Marissa meticulously curated to signal success. She adjusts a linen napkin, aligning it to the millimeter with the edge of the dark oak table. Precision is her armor. In her world of high-end real estate, a crooked frame or a stray crumb can signal a lack of control, and Marissa Greer does not lack control. She catches Leo's eye. Her 16-year-old son is following her silent cues, placing the silver dessert spoons with a practiced grace that masks the months of therapy it took to pull him out of his last depressive episode. He looks stable today. He looks happy. Marissa offers a radiant smile to Mrs. Hargrove, a gesture so practiced it feels like a physical reflex. Progress is such a funny word, isn't it? Marissa's voice is light, the kind of tone that makes people lean in. Depends on who's measuring, I suppose. David's knee stops. His hand finds hers under the table, fingers lacing tight. A warning? A plea? She can't tell. He looks every bit the partner she deserves, successful, attentive, his temples graying with a distinguished air that she helped him cultivate. Yet, as the evening wind stirs the trees outside, Marissa notices a shift. A light breeze catches David's navy blazer, which hangs over the back of his cedar chair, and he flinches. It's a small movement, almost imperceptible, but she sees the way his gaze darts to the garment. He reaches out, his knuckles whitening as he grips the fabric, pulling the jacket closer to his side. He's sweating, a thin sheen of moisture glistening on his forehead despite the cool Illinois evening. The guests eventually depart, their laughter echoing down the pristine driveway. Marissa begins the ritual of restoration, gathering crystal glasses and stray plates. The yard is quiet, the shadows of the oaks stretching long across the manicured lawn. As she reaches down to retrieve a fallen silver fork near the garden chair where David had been sitting, her fingers brush against something hard, wedged deep into the crevice between the cushion and the armrest. She pulls it out. It's an old flip phone, its black plastic casing scratched and slightly tacky to the touch. It feels heavy, an archaic weight that doesn't belong in a house filled with the latest sleek technology. Marissa glances toward the house. David's silhouette moves behind the kitchen window, domestic and familiar. Her heart hammers a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she slides the device into the pocket of her apron. The scent of cheap plastic clings to her skin, suddenly overpowering the delicate fragrance of the evening petunias. Inside, the house is a sanctuary of beige tones and soft lighting. She waits until David is upstairs, the muffled sound of the shower providing a veil of noise. In the dim glow of the kitchen hood, she presses the power button. The screen flickers to life, a harsh, low-resolution blue that makes her squint. A single icon, an envelope, blinks in the center. Her thumb trembles over the plastic key. Lickmusk, the sound is a gunshot in the silence of the kitchen. "We are waiting for you at home, Papa." The air in the room thickens, turning bitter and hard to swallow. She reads the words until they blur into meaningless shapes, then reads them again. A short, sharp vibration from the phone burns against her palm, a digital warning of a catastrophe already in motion. She looks into the living room. Leo is on the rug, his long, thin frame hunched over a complex Lego model. He looks peaceful, his brow furrowed in concentration rather than distress. Marissa bites her lip, the metallic taste of blood grounding her. She wants to scream, to demand an explanation, but the sight of her son's fragile tranquility stops her. She has spent years building this glass castle to protect him. To speak now would be to throw the first stone. Sleep does not come. By dawn, the house feels like a cage of her own design. She retreats to the home office, a room that smells of lemon polish and old ambition. She logs into the proprietary real estate database, the hum of the computer tower sounding like a gathering storm. Her fingers fly across the keys, inputting the serial number from the burner phone and the SIM card ID. A map blooms on the monitor. A jagged red line of geolocation data crawls across the screen. A digital cardiogram of a secret life. The dots cluster in areas David never mentioned. Industrial zones, outskirts of the city, places that don't fit the narrative of his consulting trips. She zooms in, her breath hitching as the pixels resolve into a derelict warehouse district on the edge of Chicago. The cursor hovers over a gray rectangle marked with a bold red stamp. Demolished, 2019. The last signal was recorded yesterday at noon. David had told her he was at a lunch meeting in Oak Brook. Marissa traces the screen with her fingernail, trying to scrape the lie off the map. The sound of the shower stops upstairs. Panic, cold and sharp, flares in her chest. She closes the mapping software and opens their joint banking app. The rows of transactions are a blur until she sees the pattern. Regular, 5-figure withdrawals. The recipient is Nightingale Trust. The name has never been spoken in this house. She calculates the totals in her head, the numbers forming a vertical drop that leaves her lightheaded. Their fortress is built on sand, and David has spent the last 6 months shoveling it away. As soon as the garage door rumbles shut behind David's car, Marissa is in his office. She doesn't look, she feels. She taps the wood paneling of the built-in shelving, listening for the hollow thud of a void. Behind a decorative molding, her fingers find a seam. She slides a credit card into the gap and pries. The panel pops open with a dry snap. Inside lies a leather portfolio, smelling of damp basement and fresh ink. She pulls out a stack of documents. A driver's license stares back at her. It's David's face, the same sharp chin, the same steel-gray eyes. But the name printed beneath the photo is Mark Walsh. There are stacks of cash, bound in rubber bands, and something that makes the floor tilt beneath her. 2 birth certificates. Indiana, 3 years ago. Thomas Walsh, Emma Walsh. Father, Mark Walsh. Marissa collapses onto the carpet. the papers fluttering around her like dead leaves. While she was agonized over the thread count of Leo's sheets, David was paying for diapers in another state. While she was organizing the chaos of Naperville, he was building a second world. The door handle turns. Marissa scrambles, shoving the documents under the edge of the rug, the sharp paper slicing into her palm. She doesn't flinch. She looks up and forced a smile onto her face, a mask so brittle she's surprised it doesn't shatter. Leo stands in the doorway, clutching a tattered teddy bear he hasn't touched in years. His eyes are wide, reflecting the frantic energy in the room. "Just looking for some old tax forms, honey," she says, her voice an octave too high. "Go get your breakfast." Leo doesn't move. He looks at her reddened face, the disarray of the office, and the way her hand is hidden beneath the rug. The scent of fear in the room is palpable, a thick, cloying thing that even her expensive perfume can't hide. She can't stay in the house. She follows the coordinates to Chicago, parking her Audi 2 blocks away from the demolished warehouse. The gray Chicago sky hangs low, spitting a fine, cold mist. She sees David's silver sedan parked near a rusted iron door. He steps out, adjusting his tie with a practiced, confident flick of the wrist. He looks different here. The suburban softness is gone, replaced by a predatory sharpness. He taps a black key fob against a hidden reader, and the ruin chirps with the sound of a high-end security system. Marissa slips from her car, her shoes crunching on concrete dust. Inside, the building is a revelation. The lobby is stripped of its industrial decay, replaced by marble floors and the scent of ozone and expensive cologne. She ducks behind a pillar as a group of men emerges from an elevator. David is in the center. He isn't the man who picks at his cuticles under dinner tables. He is commanding. His shoulders are square, his stride long. "Mr. Walsh, the signature pages are ready," one of the men says, holding the door with a deference that makes Marissa's stomach turn. David passes within feet of her. His gaze sweeps over the pillar, cold and unrecognizing. He is Mark Walsh here. The man she married is a ghost, a character he plays for her benefit. She drives home in a trance. On the kitchen table lies a thick envelope from the bank. She tears it open. It's a notice of foreclosure. David took out a massive secondary mortgage on the Naperville house 3 months ago. The debt exceeds the value of the home. She looks at the white walls, the panoramic windows she spent weeks choosing, the life she curated. It isn't hers. It never was. It was just a prop in Mark Walsh's long con. Dinner that night is an exercise in agony. The silence is a physical weight. Marissa watches Leo. His fingers are trembling so violently he can't keep his fork steady. He's breathing too fast, his eyes darting between David's cheerful facade and Marissa's hollow stare. Suddenly, Leo bolts. He knocks over a glass of water, the liquid spreading across the table like a rising tide, and hurls himself into the corner of the sofa, hands clamped over his ears. Marissa reaches him first, feeling the icy sweat on his skin. She realizes then that her own silent rage is a poison, leaking through the walls of their home, dissolving the last of Leo's stability. Later, after the sedative takes hold and Leo is adrift in a forced sleep, Marissa returns to the digital trail. She finds a hidden account, a ledger for the other family. The numbers are a final verdict. Leo's college fund, the money she'd painstakingly saved from her commissions, is gone. The last transfer was to a contractor in Indiana for a swimming pool. She stands in the dark kitchen, her hand closing around the cold handle of a butter knife. It's a pathetic weapon, but it's all she has. A silhouette appears in the doorway. David. He's back from another meeting. the streetlights outside casting his shadow long across the floor. In this light, he isn't her husband. He's a professional gambler who has been playing her for 15 years. Something inside her snaps, the last thread of the perfect Marissa, fraying and breaking, replaced by a cold, crystalline resolve. The next morning, the mail brings a heavy, unmarked envelope. Inside are photographs. David at a fairground, a petite brunette in a yellow sundress leaning against his shoulder. He's wearing a second wedding ring, a simple gold band she's never seen. 2 children, a boy and a girl, are laughing, their faces sticky with cotton candy. The sunlight in the photos is agonizingly bright. Marissa's phone chirps, an email from her own agency, a new listing in Naperville. She clicks the link and sees her own living room, photographed from a professional angle she didn't authorize. The price is a fire sale. The listing agent, Mark Walsh. She walks to the driveway. Her neighbor, Mrs. Harris, is walking her retriever. Usually the woman would stop to gossip for 20 minutes. Today, she jerks the dog's leash and crosses the street without looking up. Marissa's phone begins to vibrate incessantly. Marissa, is it true about the accounts? The police are asking about David. Did you know about the pyramid scheme? Naperville, her sanctuary, has become an arena. A heavy thud echoes through the house. Someone is pounding on the front door. Through the frosted glass, she sees 2 men in gray suits. They aren't ringing the bell. They are demanding entry. One holds a repossession order against the glass. "Leo, go upstairs," she screams as her son appears on the landing, his face pale and eyes wide. She grabs a heavy wooden bench from the foyer and rams it against the door, the wood groaning. She hauls the curtains shut, plunging the house into a synthetic twilight. She is a prisoner in a castle that is being dismantled from the outside in. She slips into the garage. David's Audi is there. She pops the trunk and tears up the carpet near the spare tire. A suitcase. Inside, cash, clothes, and a dark blue passport. Mark Walsh. Tucked into the flap is a one-way ticket to Mexico City. The visa is stamped. The departure is tomorrow. There is no ticket for her. There is no ticket for Leo. She finds Leo in his room. He's found the photos she left on the dresser. He's staring at the children in Indiana, his expression like carved marble. He doesn't hear her call his name. He has retreated into a silence so deep she can't reach him. Outside, a white convertible, a car they can't afford, pulls into the driveway. David hops out, whistling a pop tune, looking like a man without a care in the world. He enters the house with an armful of lilies, his eyes shining with a terrifying, false light. "Pack your bags, Marissa. We're going to the islands. A fresh start." She takes the flowers. The pollen stains her fingers like yellow bile. She looks at his wallet on the hall table. The boarding pass is there. One name. Mark Walsh. She moves. She takes her own car keys and backs her SUV into the garage door, wedging it tight against David's car. The metal screams. She gets out and hurls her keys into the center of a thorny barberry bush. The silver trap is set. Back inside, she walks to the wall and tears down their wedding portrait. The glass shatters across the hardwood. David freezes, his smile sliding off his face like melting wax. She doesn't stop. She sweeps his awards from the shelves, tears Leo's school certificates, and upends the vase of lilies. The water soaks into the rug, mixing with the shards of their life. "Stop it!" David shouts, stepping toward her, his hands out in that familiar, soothing gesture. She shoves him. He's solid, but he stumbles. For a second, his face goes blank. The mask is gone. There is no love there, no regret. Just the cold, empty stare of a man who has already moved on to the next play. Marissa grabs the Walsh portfolio and heaves it onto the dining table. The fake IDs and birth certificates scatter like confetti between the dinner plates. "Tell me about Indiana, Mark," she whispers, her voice a jagged blade. David opens his mouth to lie, but he stops. He looks past her. Leo is standing in the shadows of the hallway. The boy picks up a piece of the torn wedding photo, then looks at the birth certificates of the siblings he never knew he had. David's shoulders drop. The expensive wool of his sweater seems to sag. He straightens his cuffs, the sound a dry, final snap. "It was a good run, Marissa," he says. His voice is flat, clinical. Naperville was a solid investment. High yield, low risk. But the market has turned. It's time to liquidate. He looks at her as if she's a piece of property that didn't meet its appraisal. He turns to the door, but he can't leave. The cars are blocked. The police are coming. The neighbors are watching. Leo steps forward. He takes the birth certificate of the boy in Indiana, Thomas, and rips it. Then he rips it again. The white scraps fall like snow onto the ruined rug. He looks at David, and for the first time in his life, there is no fear in his eyes. Only a cold, clean recognition. The house is no longer a home. It is a shell. But as Marissa stands in the wreckage, she feels a strange, terrifying lightness. The control is gone. The facade is dead. She walks to Leo and takes his hand. Her fingers are stained with pollen and blood, but her grip is firm. "We're leaving," she says. "Not to the islands. Not to a new lie." They walk out the back door, leaving the perfect house to the creditors and the ghosts, stepping out into the cold Illinois air to find something that is finally, painfully real.